2 बजे से लेके जब भी आपने भेजना है। हाँ, कॉ 4B, 4th फ्लोर 4B। वो जो ब्लॉक 4B है, 4B के एक ब्लॉक का नंबर है। हाँ, उस पे चले जाइए, 4th फ्लोर पे लिफ्ट खोलेंगे, सामने इंडिया फाउंडेशन है। 4B, 4th फ्लोर। ठीक है, 2 बजे कभी भी बात आ जाए। हाँ, मैं तैयार हूँ एंड वी कैन गो अहेड। ओके।
नमस्कार दर्शक मित्रों। थिंकलाइन के आज के संस्करण में आपका फिर से स्वागत है। वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू द थिंकलाइन। मित्रों, जैसे आप देख रहे हैं, देश के चारों तरफ आग लगी हुई। ऑल फोर साइड्स आर बर्निंग। बट इट्स नॉट ओनली दैट। खाली वो ही नहीं है दोस्तों। हमें क्या हो रहा है कि अंदर में भी, देश के अंदर आग लगाने की पूरी पूरी कोशिश हो रही है। प्रधानमंत्री ने बहुत पहले भी कहा था, फिर से दोहराया है कि हमें बहुत सावध रहना पड़ेगा, हम पे हमले होंगे, बहुत ज्यादा हमले। अभी उसी परिक्षेप के अंदर आज ने मैंने अपना टॉपिक चूज किया है। इस पाकिस्तान एंड बांग्लादेश, जो कि ईस्ट पाकिस्तान बन चुका है फिर से, वहां की गतिविधियों से तो लगता है, इज इट अ बिग थ्रेट टू इंडिया, इंटरनली एंड एक्सटर्नली। हमारे साथ इस विषय पर बात करने के लिए, इस विषय के काफी पहलुओं के ऊपर पूरा अपना एक्सपीरियंस का निचोड़ हमें देने के लिए हमारे साथ मौजूद है। जैसे आप देख रहे हैं, जनरल ध्रुव कटोच। जनरल साहब, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है थिंकलाइन में। वेरी
धन्यवाद।
वार्म वेलकम टू यू। एंड सर, instead of me telling you anything, it's something like, I'll give you a backgrounder, okay, why I think all this is happening. We have a person in Pakistan sitting, ordering the attacks on infrastructures of the country, number one. Number two, since the elections are announced in Jammu and Kashmir, where some people don't like it, the elections should take place. That's a different issue altogether. But when the elections are happening, it's just starting in 3 days' time. We are having the insurgency raising their head again. This time, maybe not in Valley, but in Jammu region. Our grid is being strengthened. That also we knew. That's a backdrop. Yesterday also, there were some incidents of encounters. Some terrorists were killed, and all those things are happening. On the eastern border, we know since the 5th of August what's been happening in Bangladesh. In a month's time, Bangladesh, the name which was given by Bharat, India, a Sanskrit name, is again becoming East Pakistan. No electricity. 60 out of 64 districts run, well, 10, 12 hours of power cut because India doesn't supply the energy. That's happening. The moment Indian companies say that give me the money, Russians also send a letter. By 15th of September, you pay us back our $640 million. So things are happening. Right now, when we are talking, in that so-called East Pakistan or Bangladesh, whatever you want to call it, I call it East Pakistan. What is happening is there is a delegation of US people talking so many things. And in that, one important thing, why I'm mentioning this is, बहुत महत्व की चीज बाहर आ रही है. And that is, Bangladeshi advisors, group of advisors, want to make a nuclear deal with Pakistan. That is also happening. Well, the question arises, we don't care much. But does this, rogue states, I call it rogue, because Bangladesh is on the verge of going to not even Pakistan. I would say it's becoming a Syria, perpetual Syria for this region. When this is happening, are we not worried? And what's happening on security fronts? So many times, we people, Bhartiyas, as we call ourselves, Indians, have a habit. See, I'm taking a little long to explain because I'm going to give the total flow to General Dhruv Katoch, and then he's going to take up one by one and say that this is what it is. So, We Bhartiyas have a habit of overreacting. We are very emotional people. अरे देखो ये हो गया, अरे देखो वो हो गया. Are we sitting simply? हम ऐसे ही चुपचाप बैठे हुए हैं कि हमने चूड़ियां पहनी है? I'm being very, very categorical and blunt because I'm not talking geopolitics. I'm talking of real politics. So many things are happening behind back doors. We are getting those indications. Let me tell you something. This may not concern this region, but it does concern the region, what I'm going to tell you now. Just think of 3 incidents in last 1 week. And after that, I'll give it to General Saab, to give his views. On one side, Jaishankar goes to Europe and says, what's wrong? When you make a G7 club, we make BRICS. That's number one. Number two, he says, very, very clearly, 75% of our border standoff has been resolved. It's in progress. That's what he says. Other side, in Moscow, Ajit Doval meets Putin in the BRICS and, summit. He says, what is happening is, dosto, hold your breaths. You might have heard it. Some of you might have heard it. But what's happening there with Mr. Ajit Doval? For once, Putin breaks his protocols. First, he broke it this January with Jaishankar. Then he breaks it with Ajit Doval. Wang Yi and Putin, along with Ajit Doval, in their presence, the next day, a Chinese people say that the border talks are progressing very, very well and we are doing what is needed. We'll go back. Well, we know we can't trust Chinese much. Or can we? But at least that is bought India some time, 4-5 years' time, a window, wherein we can avoid war with China or skirmishes with China and concentrate on our economic development. And on the third side, Prime Minister Modi, after 50 years, goes to a place in Jammu, Doda, and calls out some people. I would say some people. And he gives an indication to the world that we know everything that's happening. And the reply maybe will be given on the soil on which you uttered those words. Prime Minister Modi is going to US for 3 days. Why? When he's not meeting any stage, when he's not addressing the UN General Assembly, still he goes there. Yes, God meeting there, World Economic Forum meeting there, but he's going to address the diaspora and he's going to answer back people, those who spoke certain things in their own terms, in the same land. That is what I feel. Very well, very, very welcome, Katoch Saab. After a long time, we are meeting again. But this is a heavy topic and loaded topic. But then, I want to concentrate more on, is India having a real threat from these two rogue states, Pakistan and they are talking in terms of nuclear and this and that they have been doing for so many years. But we know a kafila of 50 black cars went from somewhere to somewhere. And after that, there is no one telling for sure that what has happened to the atomic arsenal of Pakistan. Sir, the floor is yours.
Himanshu ji, सबसे पहले आपको और to all the people listening on to this program, namaskar. Now, this is a very interesting topic, but let me give you my perspective.
Yes.
When we're looking at India, there are a few points which I want to give. Firstly, the Prime Minister has made it very categorical that we are going to be, a $5 trillion economy, then a $10 trillion economy. Then, you're looking into 20 and 40, 30 to 40 trillions, right? And by the time we come to 2047, we are going to be at least a medium-sized economic power.
Yes.
Now, if that is to happen, it cannot happen just simply with what we are doing on the continent. we have got to go out to the sea, to the oceans. Your trade has to increase multifold, which is why we have got very important interest in the Indo-Pacific. And India's interests in the Indo-Pacific align completely with the American interests in the Indo-Pacific. We want a free and open Indo-Pacific, and we don't want anybody interfering in that. So that is where the Chinese get involved, you see. So when we're looking at the Indo-Pacific, our interests are aligned with the United States and with Western Europe. Now, you come to the continent. When we look at the Eurasian landmass, there a difference takes place. Our interests are not aligned with the United States and Western Europe. As we have seen, what has happened in the Russia-Ukraine war. The Americans have a particular take on it. West Europe has it. India doesn't have that take. When we look at things like climate change, again, our interests are divergent. So here you find India has much closer interest with the Russians and the Chinese than with the Americans.
Yes.
And this is where the dichotomy lies, because for some reason, India, over the last 10 years, I'll make it very specific, it really started with 2014, you charted a foreign policy which was, in a sense, something like the earlier policy where we were talking of economics and security of the nation, but it became more focused towards India's national interest.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the whole dynamics changed, because now India started saying, we are not so much concerned about the American interests or the European interest or the Russian interest or what China is thinking. Our prime concern is what will benefit India and the people of India. Now, this was a tremendous shift in the thinking. Of course, I'm not saying that the earlier governments weren't looking into security and economics, but here it became very, very focused. And along with that, you started looking into the cultural samvad, Sanskriti, all those things started coming in the foreign policy. Now, this has become a matter of concern both to the West and to China. Now, why the West? You see, the West wants a friendly India and they want a reasonably strong India. It is not that the Americans want to destroy India, but they want a sort of an India which is slightly dependent or reasonably dependent on the West, and who, like a good poodle dog, obeys what the West says. Now, unfortunately for them,
देसी भाषा में बोले तो पिट्ठू.
तो लास्ट 10 years में क्या हुआ कि नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने, और उस समय पर सुषमा स्वराज जी थे, उन्होंने बोला नहीं भाई साहब ये तो हम नहीं करेंगे. और उसके बाद नरेंद्र मोदी जी और जयशंकर जी ने बोल दिया it is not going to happen. And this has been a matter of concern because they want a pliable India. The West wants an India which can look after itself, but which is pliable and which will do its bidding. And fortunately, we have a government which says we are a proud, sovereign, independent nation. We are getting back to our Sanskriti, which is very important. You see, we had forgotten Sanskriti since independence. In a very false sense of secularism, we thought that anything bad which you say about the Hindu religion, about Sanatan Dharma, is being secular. If you want to do your own social customs, if you want to do your Durga Puja, if you want to do anything, you'll be saying, oh, this person is not secular. No, that is history. We are as secular today as we were earlier, except that we proudly also proclaim our religion, our culture, and our history. I think that is the change. Now, we find the West uncomfortable with this stand. And we find the Chinese very uncomfortable with our stand as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned. So you find both the Americans and the Chinese, they don't want a strong India. They want an India which is reasonably strong, which can actually align with them, but not an India which can start thinking on its own, acting on its own, and doing what is in the best interest of the Indians. Now, when you're looking into this overall dynamics, this fundamental shift, you will find the Americans will always reach out to you regardless of the dispensation in the US, because they need India as an ally.
Yes.
When you're looking from the American point of view, they are, for some reason, the Americans are always concerned about Russia. I think they've gone hopelessly wrong, but I can't change their thinking. Their primary threat remains, when you're even in the short term and the long term, it remains China, which is a very strong economic power, which has challenged them economically and it is now challenging them militarily.
Yes.
So the US needs India to as a counterpoise against China, and it will suit India's interest perfectly if India and China go to war. So India will fight, China will fight, both will become weak and the Americans remain strong. Western Europe remains strong. They'll keep selling us weapons and they'll keep saying, okay, how good we are. No, we are not going to fall into the trap. And the Chinese are wise enough, they will not fall into the trap, which again explains the statement which their foreign minister has made, that we have resolved most of the disputes. Okay, even if they're not been resolved, the point is we'll resolve them whatever time it takes, but we are not going to go to war over it.
Yes.
We will keep deployed. That means today 50,000 Indian army soldiers are deployed there and the Chinese are also deployed there. That's okay. So long as India feels a threat, it is not that we are going to say that Hindi, Chini, bye-bye, those days are over and they will never come back. If China wants to fight, we are ready. So it is up to them. But I think the Chinese are wise. They know what the consequences will be of a war. So they will desist from war and so will India. We are building our economy. There's no need to go to war. We will have our differences, we'll resolve them, but we don't want outside forces to tell us what to do. So now, if China wants to make India weak and the Americans want to make India weak, then how do you do it? Without getting directly involved in a war and also maintaining a facade of friendship. So there are two things which they will do. One is you will promote internal instability within India. And number two, you will promote instability in the neighboring countries,
Yes.
which will directly impact India. Now, you look at the game from that point of view, what are they trying to do as a long-term measure, right? So, a coup happens in Bangladesh. A person who is a convicted criminal becomes the head of the caretaker government. Let us not put any soft terms to it. He has been tried by a court and convicted. Now, after they may come and overturn any judgment, but the point was he was convicted. He may be having a Nobel laureate to his name. That's all right. That is also given as by the West to promote their own candidates. And here you find, you spoke of Bangladesh becoming an East Pakistan. On this, I think my article was published on the 10th of August in the, I think it was the 10th of August. In which I very clearly said Bangladesh has become, it's a Pakistan or worse. Pakistan to ban gaya hai, usse bhi bigad gaya hai. Because you see, here I want to just spend 2 minutes as to my view of Bangladesh is going, When we fought in 71 together, the East Pakistanis and Indian forces to evict the Bangladeshis from the Pakistani side, that means the West Pakistan side, it was a religious war. They wanted to impose their concept of Islam. The Bengalis wanted to preserve their culture. So the fight was really between having a West Pakistani dominated view of their country, in which Islam had primacy and Urdu had primacy. And the Bengali population said no. So that is why the war took place. Mujib declared independence and Bangladesh became a free state. They preserved their language. They preserved their culture. And now we come in 3 years later, in 75, the coup takes place and they get back to a softer Islam.
Yes.
But it was a reversal. And then, of course, Sheikh Hasina comes in and reverses it again. Now, with Sheikh Hasina going and taking refuge in India, we have got a very tricky situation, because what has happened in Bangladesh today, it is again a fight for ideology. Yes. Do you want your Bengali identity, your language, your culture, your Sanskriti to remain? Or do you want an Islamic Bangladesh? And this time there are no outsiders fighting. They are fighting this battle amongst themselves. And I am afraid this time, Bangladesh, the people who wanted a syncretic Bangladesh, who are looking at their culture, their identity as Bengalis, I am afraid they are going to lose that identity. And once it is lost forever. It is for them, it is their battle. It's got nothing to do with India. It is how they perceive themselves. Is he proud of his Bengali identity, or does he want to submerge his Bengali identity and take on a pan-Arabic identity, which will really make the Bangladeshis or the East Pakistanis or the pseudo-Afghanis, whatever you want to call them, you can give them any name.
Okay.
You can give them any name. So the fight is between, should they get their identity, or will they become a second-rate or a third-rate Arab republic? And the beauty of this is the Arabs will never recognize them as equal Muslims.
Yes.
They will still say you are beneath us, and that will be acceptable to the Bangladeshis in their radical state. It has become a radicalized state. It is an Islamized radical state. Militarily, it poses zero threat to India. Ideologically, and on the terrorism front, it poses a very major challenge. So I want to address this challenge first. The first thing is, you see, Bangladesh, they have got a very keen, we don't have, the borders are permeable. It's very difficult to say that we will prevent people from coming in. There are many areas out there by which, you can just cross over.
You can't do anything about it.
Unfortunately, some of the governments there actually support our governments. Like West Bengal has been very soft towards these people, and they have been coming in. The Congress, when it was ruling in Assam, was very soft on them. I've got those reports, very, very soft, and they would actually encourage them to come as vote banks. And this is where I think many of our political leaders, the Indian political leaders, have sold the national interest in the interest of vote bank politics. I will make it a very clear statement. And we have got not thousands or 100,000s, we have got them in the millions. Millions of Bangladeshis have now flooded into India, and they are living off Indian largesse. And I think the rest of India, all aspects, all Indians, whether you're a Hindus or Muslims or Christians or Sikhs, all Indians are working to actually feed those millions of people who are nothing but trouble creators, the illegal Bangladeshis, the Rohingyas, which are settled in India. Yes. And anytime you try to throw them out, these same political parties within India, they start rising up because that forms their vote bank. This is the threat, the real challenge to India, which can emanate from Bangladesh. One. The second threat, you see the Northeast today is reasonably peaceful. Yes. And we must compliment Sheikh Hasina's government for 15 years. She did not allow any Indian insurgent group to set up base in Bangladesh. Now, Mohammed Yunus's government may again try to set them up. Yes. I think it is incumbent on the part of the Indian government to make it very clear to the Bangladeshis that the consequences will be very severe. Now, it will not be a hand of friendship. We know how to deal with you. And the consequences will be so severe, not only will we cut off your electricity and water and your food supplies, but we'll march in there and destroy those camps. So now the choice is up to them. I keep hearing these very soft statements, Himanshuji, that, we can't change our neighbors, so we must learn to live with Bangladesh.
That's an old doctrine.
Please change the wordings. Bangladesh must learn to live with India.
Yes.
We don't bow down to these terrorist forces. Don't bow down to these inimical forces who are trying to obey foreign agendas. So now you will find Bangladesh operating on a US-led agenda. It is not a Chinese-led agenda. It is a US-led agenda, right? So when people say, no, the Chinese are doing it, I don't believe it. It is a US-led agenda. For their particular brand, they promote a particular set of Islamists to fight and to keep India down. So their purpose is, so long as India keeps getting engaged in Bangladesh, in the Northeast, in Kashmir, in Punjab, so you really will not become a top-class economic power. You will never be a challenger to the United States of America. But you will still be friendly with the US because your interests in the Indo-Pacific align. So it's a bad
policy.
So this is going to continue. And I think handling it now, we have to be very firm with the Bangladeshis. We have to be very firm with the Bangladeshi illegals. Please throw them out. If it's a Rohingya settled in, say, Chennai, throw them out. There are hundreds of them, thousands of them, millions of them. We can say, how do we deport all of them? I said, well, then make the life hell in India. We have got no obligation to them. Please throw them out. That is one. Now we come to Pakistan. Here you will see a different thing happening. Pakistan, again, is not a military threat to India. They can pose no viable military threat. They have got a reasonably strong military, but their military, as of now, is very totally, let us say, engaged with their own internal security problems. They have got problems in Balochistan, they've got problems in Sindh, they've got problems in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they've got problems on the Afghanistan border. And you see their problem, their military problems of the Afghanistan border are very, very severe. They are very lucky that India is not creating any disturbance. So they've got a very peaceful border with India. But they don't have a peaceful border with Afghanistan, which at one point of time, they used to consider as this will give us our strategic depth. No longer. So their military is not a threat. But again, on the terrorism front, it becomes a very serious concern. The infiltration from there, I don't expect millions of Pakistanis to get into India. That we have got a very strong fence, and that fence is guarded by the border security force. So that sort of illegal immigration coming in from Pakistan is not going to happen. But they are in a position to continue sending terrorists to India, which they are doing. We have given them a firm response. And I think we are responding to them in multiple ways, especially by having them isolated on the international community front. So today, even their Muslim countries in West Asia
are not supporting
them. Now, that shows the success of India's foreign policy. You see, people say, no, our foreign policy is not good enough. We are not friendly with Pakistan. I think, again, we should reverse the situation. I know like India and what I was speaking about India and Bangladesh. So, Bharat और Pakistan के बीच में भी वही है. I know I can't change my neighbors, but that is the responsibility of Pakistan to behave with India. It is not my responsibility now. So everybody says, no, India should maintain good relationship. I said, no, Pakistan should maintain good relationship, right? If they don't want to, we don't need them. We don't need Pakistan. We don't need Bangladesh, period. They need us. It is up to them to behave. If they don't behave, then they must suffer the consequences.
Sir, I have a small supplementary.
Yes.
Sir, as far as Jammu and Kashmir, since we are talking about Pakistan and insurgency, what they are sending in, sir, the demographic changes which are taking place near the border, or which have taken place. There are two types of people. One is the Rohingyas sent from all the way from this side, and another one is Bakarwals. Now this, provide a big infrastructure. What I'm hearing from the security side is, as you said, they will continue hurting us through insurgency. Now, in such a scenario, what needs to be done? That is what I would like you to address even.
Yeah. No, now I'll tell you. Yeah. You see, I just want to get onto this now.
Please.
So what happens now is, here it suits Chinese interests. So while the United States and the West is propping up Bangladesh as a counterpoise to India, the Chinese are doing the same with Pakistan to hit India. Now, you look at it from the Chinese point of view. So long as India is engaged with Pakistan, we are not a competitor to China. And that suits Chinese interests. And at the same time, Pakistan, regardless of the economic situation, the Americans won't let them die down. They'll keep propping them up and all that. The Chinese will do a little bit whatever they can, right? So Pakistan will continue to remain a nuisance unless it breaks up into 3 or 4 pieces, right? Many people say, will that be good or bad for India? I said, it doesn't really matter. Right. The question is, we need to break them up. To some extent, the threat will reduce. In fact, to a great extent, the threat will reduce. But now what do we do? Over a period of time, when we're looking at the Jammu area, when you're looking at the highways, a whole lot of these people have been settled by earlier governments.
Yes.
By both the Abdullah government, and by the Mahbooba Mufti led. You see, there are 2 families. Both these families have been in cahoots with the Jamaat-e-Islami there, right? And they have actually settled these people. They have been very soft separatists. They talk a very sweet language. But you see, the tragedy of India is that when something happens, like in we've had incidences in, say, Gaza, right? And people are, all the time they're saying, oh, so many Muslims are being killed in Gaza and Israel is at fault and all that, right? They didn't cry when 1,000 plus innocent Israelis were killed.
On
But
7th
more
October.
importantly, when the complete Kashmiri Hindus were thrown out of Kashmir,
Yes.
not one person raised his voice. That is why I hold the Abdullah family and their political party directly responsible for the genocide which has taken place in Kashmir. And in your channel, I would like to publicly state they must be tried for genocide. They must be tried. If you want a closure in Kashmir, get the Abdullah family. They were responsible for it. They have created these snakes. They allowed it to fester. They allowed the killing of the Hindus to take place. And they must be tried. They are culpable for the genocide which has taken place. They are culpable. They are directly responsible. And even if they didn't pull the trigger, they enabled the trigger to be pulled, which is as good as pulling the trigger themselves. So now what do we do? This is your question. One, regardless of the way the elections go, and let us say peace prevails in Kashmir, hopefully, please do not put the security apparatus on the back foot by reducing the forces there. This is a false sense, okay, now everything is normal, we remove the army. You remove the army, the problem will come back again. Till such time as peace prevails for 20 years, that means a complete generation has changed, do not reduce the presence of the security forces. Please maintain that grid. I know it is a long-term business, it is expensive, but imagine 3 generations have been through this violence in Kashmir.
Yes.
They have been brainwashed. Their education curricula is something which needs to be changed immediately. Their administration has been totally corrupt. There was a time when if you wanted a government job in Kashmir, you had to get a chit from Gilani, and Gilani wasn't even in the government.
Yes.
But did the Abdullahs or the Muftis have the power to stop it? No, they didn't have the power. And I think it was by the grace of God that the BJP was strong enough to abrogate 370, to put in, to abrogate 35A, and to impose president's rule there for a period of 5 years. Now we are going in for elections. A lot has changed in 5 years. But then people say, okay, if a lot has changed, why isn't there peace? The question is, after the abrogation, for the first time, we have a chance of peace. Had it not been for the abrogation, you would never have got peace for 100 years. It is just not possible. So now there's a chance for peace. We will build on it. It will take time. The violence levels have gone down tremendously. But the mind has to change because people who have been brainwashed for more than 30 years, that takes time to get out. Generations. So please give it a generation. Change the education curriculum, change the things, and start having a different sort of a dialogue in Kashmir now. Even today, Mehbooba Mufti has been stating, our Muslim culture is being hit. What is the Muslim culture in a secular country? Do we ever talk about Hindu culture being hit or something when Muslims come in there? We have got a syncretic democratic culture. So why is Mehbooba Mufti keeps talking about Muslim culture? Does she feel that Kashmir is only dedicated to the Muslims and nobody else can live there? And that is why these governments wanted to carry out a population change in Jammu region where they started settling in the Rohingyas. Please remember, they didn't settle the Rohingyas in Kashmir. They settled them in Jammu. So all these illegal Bangladeshis, the illegal Rohingyas, they are not one of them has gone to Kashmir. All of them have been settled in the hill areas of Jammu and in Jammu. So you see where the city is, you see where the roads are, you see where the railways are, all of them are squatting there. In Uttarakhand, where are the squatters? The illegal squatters on the railway tracks. So that when the time comes, they can always move in and stop your traffic. It has been a deliberate ploy which the Indian state has permitted for very long, and we must stop now. So here you find, to conclude to what I say, or as far as this is concerned, we are finding a very particular situation by which the foreign powers, now China doesn't want India to break, certainly, because that the Americans will become very strong. America doesn't want India to break, otherwise the Chinese will become very strong. But both India and China want India to be relatively weak and basically play second fiddle to the Chinese and play second fiddle to the Americans. But you have a prime minister and you have a external affairs minister. You have a government in Delhi and you have the people of India, 1.4 billion of them who say, no, we are a free, independent, democratic country and we will run our policies which are best suited to the interests of India. And that is where the conflict lies.
So now you can say conclusion. In conclusion, what would you say? Where will India be after 4 or 5 years? Or let's say today is 2024, we are talking of 2027, 2030, and then another 15 years later. Where do you foresee?
You see, it depends on how we take our policies up now. We have been very fortunate that we have had a stable government for 50, now it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years and it's going to be stable for the next 5. Though there will be attempts, very serious attempts are being made right now to dislodge the government. Because you see, this government doesn't suit foreign interests. They want a weak, pliable government who will listen to them. But here you have, when you look at when you're looking at what has happened in Eastern Ladakh, you've had for the last 3 years, the Indians from 1921 till now, we have kept our troops there. We have not budged. And that the Chinese have not liked. This firmness to say, okay, we don't want to go to war, but we are ready for war.
Yes.
So the Chinese are not come now. They want a government to say, okay, let us be brothers and we'll come back. So the Chinese can come up another few kilometers and India will go back and we can repeat history which has been taking place earlier. And ditto for the Americans. Which is why, when that statement which you made of Mr. Jayashankar saying, when he was questioned as to what is the need for BRICS. And he very correctly said, what is the need for G7? You see, you chaps, it is the problem with the, which again Jayashankar has stated. He said it is a problem with the Europe, with this Western bloc thinking that any war in Europe, they think it is a world war. Yes. But anything happening in India is local. So if something happens in India, it's India's problem. But if there's a Russia-Ukraine problem, that is also India's problem.
Yes.
But what is the Russia-Ukraine war? It is a tribal war, for God's sake. There are 2 tribes, 2 white Christian tribes fighting over a piece of land. That's it. It's a tribal war. It is nothing more than that. It's got nothing to do with India. India wants to help maintain peace. Yes, that is a good ideal. But I'm not going to support the Ukrainians and I'm not going to support the Russians. We will be friends with the Ukrainians. We'll be friends with the Russians. There's no reason for us to get involved in a tribal war. They will sort it out. Again, with Israel, what is happening between Israel and Gaza? Again, it's a tribal war. There are 2 tribes. Both the tribes are, once upon a time, if you look into ancient history, they were brothers. They separated. One became the Jew, other became the Muslim. That's it. I mean, the Jews are already there. One segregated into the Muslim. The 2 tribes. Again, it's a tribal war. We want peace, but we will be friendly with the Israelis and we will be friendly with the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine. We'll be friendly with them. So there's no reason for India not to be friendly. But please understand, it is a tribal war. It is their war. It is not our war. We have got our problem. And this is what the West doesn't like. They want us to say, oh, no, you are our poodles, You were part of the British Empire. You obeyed our orders, continue obeying orders. My biggest fear is any future government which comes, the people of India have to be strong and tell that government, do not change India's foreign policy. Do not bow down to the foreigners. So whichever government comes later, please don't bow down. Himanshu, I had written an article in 2019 where I stated, before the elections, I said the 2019 elections will be the most defining elections for India. Yeah. For Bharat, especially for Bharat. I said, because if the dispensation loses, you have started a particular process. If you lose, they will come on the backswing and all those anti-national forces will be back in the seats of power, again selling this country bit by bit to the Americans and to the Chinese. Now we won 2019. Bharat won. And Bharat won 2024. It'll be very difficult for any future government now to change the momentum which it has gained. But if we continue with this momentum, if the people of Bharat are wise and know where their interest lies, then we will be a very, very strong economic power. Bharat will shine, and by 2047, when we complete 100 years, We will be a middle income power. There will be no poverty in the country, and we will be very strong militarily and economically. That may not be to the interest of some, but that will certainly be to the interest of every single Bharatiya. And this is what I would like to state.
दर्शक मित्रों, आपने सुना जनरल ध्रुव कटोच. He did not mince his words. He was very clear what he wanted to say. What's happening is there are people all around us, within us, who want to pull us down. We have to be careful with them. और मित्रों, आज के इस बात का निचोड़ जो निकलेगा ना, मैं तो यही देखता हूं कि we have to be ourselves and stay that way for at least another 10-15 years. It's only then we will reach where we want to reach, and where Narendra Modi has seen us visualize that Bharat should be at a particular place by 2047. That could be possible only then. I've been telling repeatedly, I'll repeat that again. See, once we reach the threshold of a 5 trillion, our economy goes on autopilot. We don't have much time to discuss anything more, but I'm going to give 2 minutes to a minute or two to General Saab to conclude his argument and conclude his presentation. What he sees in nutshell, the threat, percentage of threat, he's already said. But does he see Bharat getting involved into any war? That's my final thing. But before that, before I give the floor, please like, share, and subscribe us. I know you people watch in large numbers, but people are कंजूस. अरे भाई कंजूसी मत करो. Don't do that. Please like and share, and please put in a few words, give comment, good, bad, whether you liked it or not, whether you want to hear something or not. Please comment in large numbers. That helps us to improve ourselves. Sir, one concluding remark.
Now, in conclusion, I would like to say, so long as India has a strong military, by military I mean a strong army, a navy, and air force, and strategic forces, so long as we are strong, there will not be a war. And if China thinks there is a weakness and they can get away and win a war, you will have war.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. So always be militarily prepared. And I don't want people to say that, okay, now we are friendly with China and we are friendly with Pakistan, we don't need a strong army. Once you have, it doesn't really matter. It takes a very long time to build up strength. But it takes just a few days to spoil relationships. So if China sees an opportunity or Pakistan sees an opportunity, they will go for it. So be militarily strong, there will never be a war. One. The more important threat right now, of course, we are going to be militarily strong. Get your economy up. Everybody, the economy is the key. You have a strong economy, as Kautilya very rightly said. On the economy, everything else works. Your security, your Sanskriti, everything, it depends on your economy. If you don't have money, you can do nothing. So the economy has to be built. For building the economy, you need internal stability. Don't let foreign forces destabilize you. Especially to my Muslim brothers and sisters, I would like to state, the Rohingyas, they may belong to your religion. They are not Indians. The Bangladeshis may belong to your religion. They are not Indians. The Gazans may belong to your religion. They are not Indians. All of us need to think India first. India first. And don't get involved in other people's battles. That is for all of Indians. Be very concerned about our internal environment, because people would like to disrupt that internal environment so they can disrupt your economy. And when they disrupt your economy, India becomes weak, and it gives a very good base for foreign powers to interfere in our affairs. And all of us, 1.4 billion Indians, will be hit hard. So don't do it. Remain united, remain strong, remain Bharat, and we will win.
Remain Bharat.
Jai Hind.
See, the operative keyword, according to me, is remain Bharat, and we will win. दर्शक मित्रों, आज के लिए इतना ही. जाने से पहले फिर जनरल साहब का शुक्रिया भी अदा करेंगे. We'll tell him, and to you people, please like, share, and subscribe once again. And if you want to help us, you have the details in the description. I'm not going to repeat all those things. I don't spend time on that. But we do need help from you people to grow further. We would like it to be a platform where the voices or the topics you want to hear, we'll discuss them. We'll get the experts on them. But please, for that, please like, share, and subscribe. जाने से पहले, sir, thank you very much for your views, your analysis on what we are looking. And दर्शक मित्रों, till the next time, 2-4 दिन में फिर से किसी एक दूसरे मेहमान से हम बात करेंगे किसी और विषय के ऊपर. तब तक के लिए प्लीज जय हिंद, जय भारत, वंदे मातरम.